All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. Today we have Drew. Man, it's been a while. Would you like to introduce yourself, bro?
Yeah, Drew, Phomtavong, many other names, I guess, but yeah, known each other for like 5, 6 years now,
It's been a while, man.
and probably haven't talked with you for about a year, 2 years. We
Maybe
haven't done
two,
this
yeah.
in a while, so
Yeah, we haven't. The last time we did one was it was through virtual.
yeah,
I think that's what we've ever had.
through
Just
Zoom. Yeah, we've
just
never done
virtual.
this in
We've
person,
we've
so this
never
is
done it in
cool.
person.
This is cool. Yeah, how have
Yeah,
you been?
this
How's things?
man, it's been good, man. Like just now I have a baby, as you know,
Fatherhood?
fatherhood, man, and definitely things change.
Yeah, tell me about that. Like, what changed? What changed?
Honestly, bro, like as far as before having a kid, I feel like everything is just kind of all over. And once you have that baby, it's more like it keeps you in line.
Right.
Keeps you in line with work, you know. As far as before, I would call in, I would, all
Yeah,
this
yeah.
stuff. Just
Yeah.
kind of not on track and
Right.
doesn't I'm not really I don't want to grow or like there's no reason for me to grow.
Right. 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 Right.
But as far as like having a kid now, it's more like you just want to grow and leave a legacy for your child.
Right. Right.
So,
Did you feel that it was like, I've asked so many people this, because even at my age, I have no children, but of course it's something I would want. But do you feel that something clicked with you, like something changed where you were like, okay, like you're almost a different person essentially?
be honest, yeah, man. It definitely changes your perspective and
Cool.
it definitely changes you personally. As far as me, I wouldn't say I'm the same person as I was a year ago.
Really?
I feel like I'm a whole different person now as far as even the way I see things.
Right.
So it definitely is changes you or even just me
Yeah.
personally, just in my experience. I'm definitely a whole different person now.
Do you feel, I think one of my biggest fears is fear. I feel like having the weight of a child and a family changes like your risk tolerance, like how much risk you're willing to take.
Right.
Do you feel that? Or do you feel that you want to take more risks knowing that you want to do something great for him, right?
I definitely, for me now, I definitely want to take more risk.
Okay, cool.
It's more like I've got nothing to lose.
Right,
It's more like obviously if you don't take that risk, there's no growth for you.
right.
I feel like you just stay in that one place.
Yeah,
So definitely changes me as far as the way I see things, right? And definitely makes me want me to grow more
right,
as far as uh, just me personally and as far as inheritance for him. I
right.
kind of want to pass that legacy, and whatever it is. But
Yeah,
even
what have you been working on? Like
so,
what's going on in your world? I see your some of your snaps and things are and I'm like, whoa, he's doing this or he's involved in that. Like,
yeah.
talk to me. Well, what things you've been
Well,
working on?
I got my life insurance agent license.
Okay,
So as
cool,
an independent agent,
cool.
so I'm more like individual. I'm not collective as like working as a bank
Right, right, right,
or
right.
because even working in the bank, you have a cap in your salary.
Mm-hmm.
As far as in this, it's more like the more I put in, the more I make.
Right.
It's more like that. So, but it's been slow, but it's with anything, usually slow
Yeah,
there at the start. But I'm this is kind of the platform I want to use to leverage.
right.
So that's kind of what I'm working on.
Cool.
So, it's also sales, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
big time.
So, and also it's also financial knowledge, right? It's
Yeah, literacy is key.
yeah.
Um, I think didn't really understand insurance until probably just maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and understanding the power of what
Yeah.
it can do to obviously build wealth, but also just protect
Yeah.
your family, protect your loved ones.
Absolutely.
I've met a couple of people who are very wealthy and well off, and it's sort of the shack mentality where they're like, I think he says like to his kids, we aren't rich, I'm rich.
Yeah.
And he goes, kind of like he'll leave them with, he'll pay for education and stuff to
Yeah.
make sure, he'll give them money to build a business, but it's never, all the money that he has or made is for everybody. But, a lot of the times they sort of pass on knowledge, one, and then two, some sort of inheritance through insurance, which I think is really smart.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to obviously build some wealth and make sure that those who are, yeah, those who are need to be taken care of are taken care of, but those who earn the money get a chance to enjoy it as well. You know what I mean?
But yeah, no, I do agree on that, Um, as far as inheritance, right? Like you want to leave that legacy to your child. And obviously it's like what you said, like Shaq, his kid's not rich, he is,
Yeah,
and I see it with me too, like I grew up in middle class. We're not rich, we start from the ground up.
yeah,
Obviously my parents guide me to where I am now,
yeah.
but obviously all the hard work that I put in is basically all me,
Right.
you know and obviously obviously want my child to do the same too. I want him to grow up. I want him to be strong independently. I don't want him to rely on me.
Yeah, go through those same
Yeah,
hardships and those lessons, right?
yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting because people talk a lot about especially in today's world, talks about drama or trauma, sorry, and how much people take. And I think it was Andre Bustamante, the ex CIA guy, he talked about how all high performing people require a certain level of trauma, like not too much
Right.
and not too little. Where I think, people will talk about today's generation where it's like, oh, everybody's too soft and they haven't gone through anything. um, I think we can create some of those challenges for in a controlled environment for our children,
Yeah.
where instead of just throwing them in and leaving them to die or leaving them to grow on their own, or just obviously babying them, like there is a way I think for us as the parents or the people who are nurturing our children to give them a sense of the challenge and give them some of those struggles, create it in a very controlled environment so they can still go through some of those things, but
Yeah.
not too much.
Yeah.
And then obviously not too little. He said, like, if you go too far one way, people end up with different vices, obviously, like drugs or
Yeah.
porn addiction or something like that, he was saying. So it makes a lot of sense, though, right?
Yeah.
Because
No.
you want them to go through some of those challenges and
Hmm.
learn things on their own, but you don't want them hurting themselves essentially in that
Absolutely.
process,
Yeah.
I feel like. So insurance, what drove you to that? Was it just the freedom? Was it money? Was it like earning
Um,
potential? Was
to be
there like
honest,
yeah,
for me, it was more like education.
right.
So when this person well, it was Kate's cousin.
Oh, okay.
I would say cousin or maybe uncle, but like Kate's related family.
Yeah,
He showed me why it's important and and he also showed me the business opportunity.
right.
So I actually thought about it. I'm like, yeah. At the beginning, I just wanted to learn.
Oh, yeah,
I just wanted to learn and I just wanted to educate myself. And then obviously I kind of want to educate the people around me too.
of course.
So that's what kind of drove me there. And it's also financial freedom. Obviously, we all need money to
No
eat.
question.
We gotta eat. So that's also another thing. But it's just that I also want to help people that don't have the knowledge about it, right? Especially like the Filipino community
Yeah,
and like just basically everyone
yeah.
that don't have that knowledge about it. And there's a lot of people that's been in Canada for a while that don't know anything about it, right?
It's true.
Like they have car insurance, they have phone insurance,
Yeah.
but they
They
don't
buy
have they
they,
don't have their life.
they buy it essentially because they have to.
Yeah, yeah,
They buy it
exactly.
essentially because they have to, and
Right.
they don't really know about
Yeah,
whole life and all these things that could
yeah,
really change your generations
yeah,
essentially,
yeah,
right? So.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think a lot about that. I think a lot about trying to educate, and I don't want to sound jaded, or maybe I'm getting a little bit older, but I even coming here, I really wanted to, yeah, like you said, educate. I wanted to help people, teach them how to be more disciplined,
Yeah,
work on how to basically be disciplined and work a good, again, sales job that forces you to do a little bit of hunting essentially
yeah,
and like work harder and have an entrepreneurial mind. And I gotta tell you, it's if we get into the whole matrix conversation, I feel like there are some people who are plugged in and don't want out. They're kind of stuck and they have this idea that this is good and this is comfortable. And I even remember from the movie The Matrix, where the guy betrays them and he's like eating that steak and he's
yeah,
like, I know this is fake and I know whatever, but it tastes or it feels good. I'm not sure what he says, but I think about that. There are a lot of people, because obviously in my line of work, there's lots of people that come in and they have the idea, they have the thought that they want to succeed and they want to make money and they want financial freedom, and then when they are struck with even the most minor challenges or hardships, um, they disappear, they fade,
Yeah.
and so I've had this conversation with a couple of people. I feel like as long as you can set your expectations as someone who is trying to influence people in a good way, that maybe out of 100 people, one
Yeah.
or three or five, and if you happen to get 10 people that it sparks their mind to do something better, just in any way, is it through health, is it through money, or
Mhm.
financial freedom, or just understanding of the world, you've done your job.
Yeah.
Because when I was young, and I would never want to lose this, and I don't think I have, but I do think my approach and strategy is different. Is I always thought I could motivate someone or inspire somebody through anything.
Yeah.
Where today I feel like maybe not anyone, or you have to try multiple ways with certain people. So instead of maybe focusing on 10 different ways to inspire one person, I might inspire 10 people one way.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
it becomes more effective and you can help more people. So, stay on that, man. Like, having that purpose of trying to educate and help people is,
Yeah.
I think it's always fulfilling. It's always going to be
Absolutely.
gratifying. It's
Yeah.
always going to, it will pay more than you ever wanted, I think, because
Yeah.
I think that's what helped grow my career and the direction I wanted to head. So,
That's no, that's a good way to look about it, to educate them and to motivate them. And even just this, like even if who's listening or doesn't want to listen to that part, I still want to motivate them to be the best version of themselves, right?
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't just want them to be sitting there because I know it's pretty bad nowadays too, like especially with the scrolling. Like people could just scroll, with
All
just
day.
constant dopamine hit. Scroll on TikTok or whatever it is, right? Just scroll, 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 and they could sit on it for hours. And
It's hard for them to receive good information now
yeah.
because there's so much of it.
Hmm.
So if you're sitting, and I think about this, I had a good conversation with a couple of my guys about like mentorship, and I find mentoring to be crazy because they say good mentorship is generally, or mentorship is when the person who is in need of some sort of information or who wants to be mentored reaches out. So
Right.
it's sort of that person who's seeking that out. And it makes sense because a good mentor is providing information. That person is dialed into that information, is listening to what the mentor is providing. Where in today's day and age, there's so much information that people are hitting that they might not even seek out a mentor.
Right.
They might not, and which I think is absolutely insane. I think of all people I know of who perform at a high level, or any level for that matter, just perform, for instance, whether it's again financial, is it sales, is it business, is it art, is it music, is it even sport. You're always looking for a mentor or somebody who can sort of provide some level of insight. And I find today, and here's the I guess comparison that I use is there is your full out book, sit down and really dive into one subject with a book. Like let's say it's financial literacy or,
Hmm.
or insurance even. I read a full book about it. I'm that much closer to being a specialist or an expert. Where half of the call it 80, I would say, percent of the world today feels like they've become experts when they follow four influencers that talk about it.
Right.
And I think it's called anecdotal information, where people feel that they are specialists or experts because these four people are experts and they're sharing information.
Hmm.
I think the problem that people don't understand with those four influencers, and I saw, I think his name is Alex Hermosi, who's also done very well for himself. He says, um, you know, give people the secrets, sell them the implementation. And what he says
Hmm.
is, here are all the secrets, here are all the things that you have to do. But when you need help getting to do that, give me a call.
Right.
So that doesn't make those people who have those four influencers
Hmm.
that they follow experts. Actually, you know the answer, but you just don't know how to get there. It's really the person who's sitting down who are doing two things: one, reading the book, and then two, practicing and going through those experiences that really gets you to that point. So
Yeah,
I find the world interesting today because yeah, again, they're not seeking mentorship.
that's so true. Hey, like I know a lot of people now that don't even want to seek mentors. Like
It's crazy,
obviously I
crazy
look
for
up
me.
to you.
Thank you.
Honestly, you're definitely one of my mentors. Like from the time we met, I looked up to you until till this day.
I
Honestly,
appreciate that.
it's honestly you're one of the person that I actually look up to.
Thank you.
And and I know there's a lot of mentors out there that you could just like on YouTube, there's on social media that you could just look up. But it's so different when it's person.
For sure.
It's so different, because you're a very successful man, and I want to be at your level too
Well,
one day,
thank you. Yeah,
obviously. But you because obviously having a mentor is um obviously you know more than I do. So that's the whole purpose of having a mentor, right? And
right.
a lot of people don't do that. They just kind of stuck in this 9 to 5, 8 to 5 grind, and this whole 40-hour work shift,
It's true.
and there's no growth for them. So honestly, for those people who are listening on this, obviously, seek mentorship.
I agree.
Find someone you can look up to. They could be good at one thing that you're interested in.
100%. Obviously, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. I've it's been a long road, and I think to be able to share that with people like yourself or anybody for that matter who are looking for advice or and sometimes aren't even looking for it, they're just looking for an example, and
Yeah.
I tried my best to be somebody who people can go, wow, he's doing it right, or he's trying hard, or he has worked hard, but or he's successful and he's still good to people. Like those are just very important things in business, right? But
Yeah.
I agree. For those who are listening, I think mentorship, and I'll give you an idea of what mentorship did for me in my career and how it sort of shaped me. Um, when I think about the four mentors that I had, it it completely changed that aspect that they were experts in, we'll say. And here's the thing: from the outside, uh, on paper, they might not be, this like Harvard
Yeah.
graduate, whoever, like, but from my financial standpoint and the way that person would teach fit exactly what I needed.
Yeah.
So, when I look at my career and when I was, you talked earlier about before having children where you're sort of bouncing or you're sort of lost.
Yeah.
I think earlier on in my career, I was the same way. I was sort of bouncing. And then, all of a sudden, as you're going too far one way, this mentor appears and kind of pushes you back into the right direction. And I found that, yeah, they weren't all people that you would consider to be like your stand-up mentor. Like some of them were horrible in some respects. And I hate to say it that way, but some of them were not good people, but were really good in that aspect of things that um, I was looking for or I
Yeah.
needed at that time. And the way they taught it was perfect for how I needed the
Yeah.
information at that time.
Absolutely.
So, and I look back today, and I remember I took a job interview actually right before I came here to Regina, and the job was mine. It was the job I was looking for a while. Really great company who, provided lots of opportunities to grow. And I was on my fourth interview, and let's say the interview was at like 2:30,
Hmm.
and this dealership was just opening, and they needed everything. They needed all different types of managers, and my mentor was also looking for a job. And tell I mean, that's another story I could get to at some point in time because my journey even to Regina was absolutely insane. But I remember he goes, "Yeah, maybe you should get me an interview with them." I go, "Sure." So I get the interview. They set the interview with my mentor, or one of my mentors, at say 11 a.m. And my fourth interview, which is generally the interview where they give you an offer
Yeah.
and you're basically closing everything up,
Yeah.
right? And 11 a.m. comes around. He gives me a call after at about noon. He goes, oh yeah, I think I did really good in that interview. And I go, oh, awesome. I'm happy to hear that. So I get to my fourth interview and I'm literally just, I basically have a pen tucked here waiting to just sign a deal because I'm so excited to get in on with this new company. And the general manager at the time, he goes, that's your mentor? I go, yeah, he's great, eh? Like, I'm kind of he goes, no, he was arrogant. He was cocky. I don't know how he does business like that. And I don't know what you would have learned from him.
Mm, interesting.
It broke my heart. I was like,
Yeah.
and he basically said, we're going to have to rethink
Yeah.
everything. And he point blank looked me dead in the eye. And I'll never forget this day because it hit me very hard. And he said, we have your contract that we were going to offer you, like ready and sitting there waiting for you. But after meeting what you consider to be your mentor, we are reconsidering. And yeah, again, another redirect.
Right.
So most people would ask me, how can you say that person was your mentor? How could you say that person was somewhat of a role model? Well, that's the key, is not every mentor is a role model. To me, some mentors are people who are just directing you in one aspect of your life.
Right.
You're not taking everything of who they are,
Mm-hmm.
uh, especially if you're trying to precede them or
Mm-hmm.
exceed what they've done even in their lives. So when I look back on that, it was a great lesson. It was an absolute great lesson.
Oh, that's just crazy. But I feel like it shouldn't be like that though. They shouldn't.
Shouldn't have been a reflection,
Exactly,
essentially.
because you're a whole different person than that person.
Yo, I agree.
You know,
I agree.
I feel like they probably um did the wrong move.
Oh, it's funny you say that.
Yeah,
Today, of course,
yeah,
I ended up taking a position that I was being interviewed
yeah.
by, and actually, it's funny that company just gave me an offer probably about a year ago
Hmm.
for above the position that I was, obviously because
Yeah,
I've exceeded or I've progressed further. But for sure, I think it was the wrong move for
yeah.
them. And fine, so be it. I've kind of accepted it, and good for them, good for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was the right move for me. Obviously my career has had a good trajectory, but also like take career aside of it, just coming here, having new mentors, really shaped the way that how I think today. Yeah, business and I had this conversation today. There are people who, especially when we get into sales, and in that initial stage, it's the hustle.
Yeah.
It's go grind. What's that next deal? Close them up. Closers University or whatever. And hey, good on you because you do need to close. You do need to be able to ask for the business. You do need to be able to overcome objections. But the long form, like the long game of business versus the hustle, are two completely different things. And I find that, and you know what, it's funny because I have so many young guys in the business that, like I want to make 100 G's a year. I want to make 200. Oh, good on you. And all I tell them is, once you make that money, what do you do? Well, we keep making it. We keep making more, and we keep making more. Well, that's the cycle, the perpetual
Right.
cycle that people get caught in. That truly, at the end of the day, means nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It is building a business worthy of recognition, or a business that's worthy of helping people, that completely changes your business. So it kind of, let's go back to what you said about fatherhood. It's sort of the same upgrade in my eyes. When you're alone, you're floating. You can live, you can wake up tomorrow and you can end up in Mexico or the Philippines or wherever. But when you have a child, everything is more directed and everything is a lot more pinpoint focused. So when I look at business versus the hustle, because don't get me wrong, I was one of those young guys too. Let's go close some
Yeah.
deals. And is Wolf of Wall Street style.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
today, the focus is build, man. Build something like you talked about legacy for your kid. Build that for him.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's so true. I think for the long run, that's definitely the way to go, right?
Game changer.
Because hustling is just now.
The
And
deal, the
yeah.
deal, the money.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've told a lot of people that as I progressed up the chain of, call it the corporate ladder, but call it just in terms of knowledge, every one of my moves had so much more impact. So when I was just selling, I was paid one for one essentially. As I became a manager, I was paid three times because I was paid from that deal, my salesperson's deal. And then as you continue to go up the ladder, every move you make. So if I pick up the phone and I make one phone call as a sales agent or an insurance agent, that's one effort towards one return essentially. But if I'm a manager or I'm an owner or I move up and I have many people working for me, every time I make that call, it pays double. Like it's a residual value. There's a lot more impact in,
Absolutely.
in the efforts that you put in, and that can only happen through business.
Yeah.
That cannot happen through the hustle.
No,
Of course,
absolutely.
you have other young hustlers that work with you side by side, but eventually those hustles end up hustling you or try to play games with you a little bit.
I do agree.
When
Yeah.
you structure, to me, a business properly with, again, good values,
Hmm.
um, you know, good structure, good, and a win-win for everybody. It's no longer a hustle. It's a business. It's something you could be proud of. It's something that your family can be proud of, and it's something that actually grows in your absence. Like
Yeah,
when you're not around, it
that's
just
true.
keeps going, right?
It gives you the passive income,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
You could be wherever you are and then
You live in.
you still have, a stream of income.
Yeah,
That's very good. And I feel like a lot of people are honestly stuck into and obviously that's where I'm trying to get at too.
yeah.
Build that passive income, whether through investment or whether through building my team. And it takes a while for you to build that team and to build that passive income for
And you
sure.
should enjoy that.
Yeah,
You should
absolutely.
enjoy the journey of it. I think I remember when Gary V came onto the scene, he really blew things up because it wasn't just about the words he was saying or anything. It was about what he created. There was a shift in the mindset
Yeah,
of everything from work-life balance to work on your passion to stop like doing things you don't like to make money. You don't need to buy or buy things you don't need to impress, that whole thing.
yeah, yeah,
But I feel like what he allowed us to see in that shift is that you can enjoy the process of making money the way you want to, building the business you want to, but not just trying to get to the finish line so quickly.
absolutely.
And I learned this because I accelerated my career coming out here by, I think, a lot. I wasn't the youngest, successful, and I don't even consider myself to be of high success, but I would consider myself to be progressing, and that's the focus. But when I think about you know, the idea that these people have is I need to get there, I need to get there, and they're rushed because of whatever comparisons. And I think that's the thing that Gary Vee opened everyone's eyes about the most, which is great, is that there's no rush in getting there. You're right on time. Do you have a roof over your head? Do you have money to take your family out for a dinner? You do? Perfect. You have a car, you're way ahead in some cases. And I think obviously the disease of comparing against the world is absolutely ridiculous and silly and curable only by focusing on yourself,
Right.
and
Yeah.
focusing on your journey. Like you literally said, yeah, it's going to take a while, it's going to take some time. But again, you just said it's going to take some time to build my team. But as you're building your team, you get to enjoy that moment with each one of those people as
Hmm.
it builds.
That's
And
true.
when you build it, it's built for you. It's not built for anybody else. That structure is built for you, for your family.
That's
That,
true.
and it's not like I'm saying that those employees are going to work with you for a million years. No, but the structure and the business that is built over time is yours and yours alone.
I agree.
Amazing feeling.
Yeah.
You're not building it for someone else. You're not just getting a bunch of old people richer. Like
Yeah.
it's you. You're taking care of you, and then you
No.
get to help people in the process.
Yeah. That's
Amazing
very
feeling.
true, and you're providing value to those
Exactly.
people, right? No, 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 that's amazing, man. Like the way, like what you said about Gary Vee and just enjoying the moment or enjoying the progress. I feel like a lot of people just want to get to the finish line, and even me, there's some days where I just kind of want to like get to that
Yeah,
line, but I think about it sometimes too. Is like, what happens then? What if, what do
it's
I
a great
do when I
question.
get to that line? Do I keep going, or is that it, or
It's a great question.
like.
Well, I'll give you an example. I've been in my role for 3 years now, and I would say the majority. I mean, it's changing a lot now because there is a big shift in people who have held those positions, more executive positions for a while. But when I got there, I don't know, after my first year, we'll call it the ether or the high of it, of accomplishment and
Hmm.
title and status. When that faded away, it was just like an adrenaline dump. You know,
Right.
it's like performing in front of people playing basketball or
Right.
fighting in martial arts. As soon as the crowd goes away, you're exhausted,
Yeah.
and you look around and you kind of go, "What the hell did I do that for?" It's kind of just all done now.
Yeah.
And I've told a lot of people this. I can remember the year 2013 was a year in my career where I wasn't making the most money. I wasn't, I wasn't the most successful. I didn't even have status really at that time, but I was in such a perfect state. I had more time on my hands. I had plenty of time to go to the gym. I did a lot of vacationing and I did a lot of traveling to, just see the world. I spent time with my family. I was making enough money to do that. And I always tell people that's a time in my career I wish I would have paused. It was a time of freedom, it was a time of
Right.
money, but yet everyone who I would tell that to would say, no, I would want to make double what you were making at that time.
Yeah.
But again,
But I feel
it's
like
a
you,
trade-off.
yeah, I feel like you did the right choice though, like I think the younger we are, I feel like it's a time for us to travel and explore the world, because
100%.
there's only one thing that we can't buy, which is time.
That's right.
And I know there's people out there that's making lots of money, but um they're probably not enjoying it as much, because the daily thing that they're doing is they're just going to work,
100%.
and it's repetitive, right?
Oh, it
And
drives me crazy. I think
yeah.
it's the most soul-sucking thing, and I'll be open. I do it. I do it myself. I'm lucky to have variance in my role, and
Hmm.
I'm lucky to be able to do many different things, have a lot of freedom. But I've always said, like, who the hell wants to be 65 or 70 and driving a sports car at that time?
Yeah,
That's crazy to me.
exactly.
I would want to be in something comfortable. I
Yeah,
would want to be in my minivan or whatever it is that it's going to make sure I get from point A to point B. I'm not the cool person anymore. And I think
absolutely, man.
it's almost embarrassing to see some of those like 50, 60-year-old people who are still like trying to act cool. And I get if it's fun and you're doing it for your kids and you're trying to have a good time, then fine.
Yeah,
But there is a point in your life where you have to accept that you're not that cool person anymore. Because I've seen it. I've seen 50, 60-year-old
yeah,
people that are out there still dressing a certain way or doing a certain thing. And I'm never someone to say act your age, but I'm saying is accept the fact that you should be enjoying the fact that you're that age, not
yeah.
still trying to pray or live like you're in your 40s or your 30s or your 20s.
Hmm.
I think the word or the term that I always keep in mind when it comes to life is age with grace. And accept that if I'm 30 or I'm 40 or I'm 50, there's something in that time that's enjoyable. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah,
Like everyone's like, "Oh, I wish I was 20 again." Are you crazy?
yeah,
I know what it was like when I was 20. There was things I hated. There's things I loved, and now that I'm in my 30s, there's many things I enjoy. There's many things that are tougher. Your body starts to break down. You're not playing 6 games of basketball in a
yeah.
week and whatever, but you do get a chance to enjoy that age for what it is.
Absolutely, yeah. I
And it's
feel like
crazy
I
that
feel
people
like
don't.
it's a season, right?
Yeah,
That we go through
yeah.
different season in our
Great way
life.
of putting it. Great way of
So
putting it.
yeah, like even me, like I'm not I'm still in my mid 20s, and
Hmm.
I feel like I matured at an early stage,
For sure.
which is um which is good because I wouldn't want to be matured at later on and realizing that holy crap, I'm behind with
Yeah,
all the things that that's
for
supposed
sure.
to be.
For
So
sure.
I'm glad that I matured at an early stage. And you know what? I feel like everything in our life that happens kind of shape us in a way of who we are
Right.
today. So I'm just glad that everything that happened in my life in the past. By the way, you want water or are you cool? Yeah.
I'm fine right now.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
fine, right? Okay,
I'm
yeah.
good.
So, but yeah, I just I'm glad that the things happened the way it is because if it didn't, then I don't know who I would be today,
Yeah,
right? Like obviously like this doing this whole podcast, and it just blows my mind how me and you literally it's just me and you talking in the basement right now.
yeah. It's
But
cool.
we're able to share this around the globe,
That's
whoever
right.
whoever it is that wants to listen, and we're able to inspire people who wants to listen to this, right? And I'm not gonna lie, man. Like I've walked around in Regina, and I've met like a few of my friends here and there, and I was shocked when when they tell me like, "Yo, I listened to your podcast," and I was
Oh,
like,
that's
"Oh, no
cool.
way! That's actually cool, man. Like,
Yeah,
I never thought you would, you know?
right.
Like, I never expect you to listen to my
That's
podcast,
right.
but that's pretty cool, you know? Like, for me, as long as I'm able to inspire and share this message to even just one person, I'm happy, man.
That's
Like,
the true
honestly,
power of it.
yeah,
But I also think about it, it again, actually, something that I took from Gary Vee is it's about documenting.
yeah,
Like
absolutely, yeah,
for us to know that, at this time and this year, we were,
mm-hmm,
thinking like this.
exactly, bro.
Because 2 months, 2 weeks, 2 years, 20 years, everything will be different,
No,
you
absolutely, I
know.
do agree.
And I that's I think one thing that I really maybe not regret, but I wish I would have done more of, obviously during times like COVID and pandemic and times of when I first arrived here. Like if I walked, half the, and I have written about this and I will document more of it of what I can recall, but just the journey of coming here, on my way here, what
Right.
happened in Calgary, like, and just from a business standpoint, like, there's a lot of things and stories that I have that people wouldn't even believe. They'd be like, "You did what?" Or, like, the company was going where, and so it's
That's actually,
there's some intensity in
yeah,
it.
that's actually crazy, man. Like, I just when you mentioned you should have documented more during COVID, it kind of um reflect on me too, where I was like, I should have done more too, you
Yeah,
know. But I love doing this and I love doing the process. So I feel like it's never too late. I feel
no,
like,
definitely.
we're like imagine 20 years from now and we look back on this video and we're like, holy crap,
Oh, for
that was
sure.
us, you know? So that's just kind of, and I'm obviously want to keep doing it. I'm gonna do it more often, but I should have done it more. But um, I can't really regret on anything. Like
Everyone was going through different
yeah,
things at that time. Like,
absolutely.
it's literally funny. I had a conversation just 20 minutes before I showed up here, and I was talking with our head accountant, and she was talking about how different things make people do different irrational things. So, for
Yeah,
instance, people go through a divorce together and they act completely out of character, whether it's, how crazy they get or their reaction to something or being led by like lawyers or whatever. But we talked about how it's really difficult for you to. There are things that make it very difficult at times to control your actions or what things you're trying to do. And we talked about how, just a certain level of trauma or shock can just cause you to do something and maybe you come out of it or maybe it wears off. Like we're emotional beings.
yeah,
We are people who react to some of those things and sometimes are whatever they call it, the fight or flight mentality or reaction. And what I come to realize, especially during that COVID time, is we're being hit from every direction of something with something,
yeah,
with this and with that, and I'm somebody who one is I try to focus on being a contrarian, where I do my own thing and I don't really follow the norm.
right.
But there were some things that were sort of closing in on you that made you feel like, okay, like
Yeah,
I can't escape this. I'm going to be forced to.
yeah,
Like there's so much pressure to do certain things, which obviously drives me insane. And that's a whole nother podcast. But I feel like in that time, yeah, like you said, you can't really regret things. You just kind of do what you do best. But what it did teach me through that process is our habits truly become more important in that type of time. I remember coming home because I was working 12, 14-hour days during COVID, man. It was freaking intense. And most people would tell me, like, oh, Drew, like you were lucky. Some people didn't have jobs and some people got sent home. And I don't know, was I that lucky? Like,
yeah,
I know where you were, and I would have rather have been there for some
yeah,
of that, but I feel like, the 12, 14-hour days were a conditioning thing, which I'm always one for pushing through challenges and things like that. So that's fine. But I also think that um, in that process, during that time of isolation and all that stuff, if I didn't have, and I obviously try to pride myself on being disciplined, but I'm not 100% disciplined, or I'm not David Goggins. But I remember coming home, and if I didn't do the things that I normally do, like I sit down, I write, I meditate, I exercise, I stretch, I read, and if I didn't do those things, I couldn't imagine somebody else. going through that, sitting there and soaking up media all
Yeah.
day and just getting programmed or whatever you want to call it, and just like feared, just being
Yeah.
fear mongered and probably frozen and paralyzed with fear. So I was essentially lucky in one way, but also I succumbed to a lot of it. So I did things that I was like, did I actually do that?
Yeah.
I still think of that stuff today. I'm like, did I do that? Well, why would I do such a thing? And now I kind of understand there was just a lot of, suggestive, a lot of pressure from
Yeah.
socials and medias and stuff. So anyway, yeah, I don't find that there was regret from that time, but I would definitely say that there were some things I wish I would have pivoted on a little bit
Right.
quicker, had better habits.
Yeah.
I wish I exercised more. Again,
That's same with me too, the way I see it. But you know what? We were all going through different things, right? Like everybody was.
and we're here.
And we're here, you know? And even now, like, man, if you think about it, like I saw a photo just recently, like the way how even the last 4 years was 2019, they were kind of distracting us and with COVID. And then what was it after? What was after COVID? It was
Black
the
lives,
vaccines, maybe the vaccines,
vaccines.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was what? Ukraine.
Yeah, that's now
And
pretty much
then
still, yeah.
yeah, even still now. And
Yeah.
then I don't know if you've been aware lately, but like it's very sad, but
Oh, like Palestine
yeah,
and
the
Israel.
Palestine and Israel right now, and it's
It's just
that could
back
be
to back.
man, that could be a whole different podcast. But like, you know what I mean? Like they're just trying to hypnotize people in a way. Like imagine there's probably people out there scrolling right now on their phone, just me too. I'm bad at it, but
Yeah.
like it doesn't stop me from doing what I want to do or what I
What you
can
need
do,
to.
what I need
What
to
you
do,
need to
right?
do in
Which
life.
is like some people might have think like, oh, I can't do the podcast now because there's this whole thing going on there.
Hmm.
But like to be honest, this is really out of our control. That's a whole politics game out there. They're playing chess. I don't know what they're playing, but
Hmm.
like it can't stop me with what I want to do or what I need to get done. So um and speaking of meditation, you taught me, you brought that up to me, and you know what, man, it helped me a lot with many
Good.
things. To be
I'm glad.
honest, like I'm so glad that at the beginning, you mentioned meditation, and when you mentioned that to me at the beginning, I actually looked more into it.
Yeah, that was a long time
No,
ago too.
that was a long time ago, man. That,
Well,
that, that was like what, 5, 6 years,
yeah,
seven maybe.
yeah.
So like that's
That
when
was in the beginning
that was in the
when I first
beginning,
met you. Yeah.
yeah. So I actually looked more into it, and I actually, did my research here and there on how to do it better and how
Yeah.
what is meditation actually is. Man, it helped me a lot.
I'm glad,
It
man.
helped me grow as a person, and it helped me like even pass my exams, and it passed me, just personal development,
Yeah,
honestly.
that's amazing.
Like you would be surprised. I was actually surprised what it could do.
It
Like,
it definitely changed. I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was big into meditation and yoga and mindfulness. And I said to her, "Yeah, like I'm so glad I started meditating. I feel like it's really working." I said, and she goes, "What do you mean? Like, what makes you think it's working?" It was a great question because I was like, "I don't know." I said, "I just feel different." She goes, "Okay, but can you explain to me how you feel that it's changed?" And how I describe it to people today as to what I feel like meditation, how meditation has helped me is obviously just taking a moment. Like I could literally feel pressure in my face and in my head, and I can literally stop and just go, and it just goes away. And you're like, whoa. And I get that this breathing exercise, it all comes
hmm
together. But I think what also happened in that process was how I process my thoughts. And how I described it to people was when back when I don't know, before I started meditating, it was kind of here's me, and there was just all these thoughts that sort of were
right.
everywhere, and they were kind of jumbled, and things stemmed off to the other way. And I said to them, that's how it was. It was hard to get from here, my brain or where my head was, to the six thoughts I had after. And once I started meditating, I explained to them it was more like me scrolling through Netflix looking for a show, where I literally go, "All right, there was this," and I can sit with it. It doesn't escape me. It's there. I can think on it, and guess what I can do? I can then archive it back, go to the next category, come down. So I was able to sort of control my thought process. And when I was making music, that was one of the most frustrating things. And as I got older, it was tough because I would remember a lyric or remember a melody that I'd be like, oh, I have to put that down. So I remember I would use my voice recorder on my phone, or I'd write it down really quickly. And I kind of stopped needing that
Right.
the more I meditated. And I'll be open, I still do every day, but not to the extent that I would like. But I remember how much that changed things. Where
Yeah.
before I was like
No.
scrambling to grab my thoughts.
Absolutely.
Now it was like I said, I just kind of scrolled. Okay, it's kind
Yeah.
of archived and filed in a much more organized way.
Right. No, I agree. It's like before even me, like when you said about Netflix, the way I would see it is like it's like having like six or more shows at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, like
Rather
stepping
than just like
stones.
focusing on one show, it's more like all at the same
It
time.
expands for
So
sure.
it really does help, man. Like
That's
I
how it
really
helped me as well. Yeah,
and honestly, I really appreciate that you brought that up to me at that age, because man, like I don't think I would be where I'm at. Like if no one said that to me, I feel like I wouldn't probably do more research about it. Because when you brought that up, I never really thought like what it actually means,
right.
you know? Like I had to do some research here and there for me to just know what it actually means. So then, I did some research and then, it's just like what you said, like bring you back in the moment, just take a deep breath and I think like for beginners, I feel like it's more like the breathing exercise will definitely help
For sure.
because your thought will be all over. Your mind will be all over, and as you get better at it, like what you mentioned, um, you get you learn how to do it more. Like you learn how to control your mind and your thought.
Yeah,
And like before, man, like what I said about like how it helped me pass my exam,
yeah,
it kind of collect my thought and just be in that moment
right.
and just focus in that one question, and then to the next question. It
Yeah,
it doesn't because when you're doing an exam, this is like even when back in high school, it makes me like think about how I did in the past few
yeah,
questions,
yeah, right, right.
and it's like, oh my God, did I like? So then your thought
You
is
might
not
go
in,
back
yeah.
and yeah.
So your thought is not on that question in that very moment. So that's the way how it helped me
Yeah, the
in that,
concentration
yeah,
aspect,
and the
huge,
so
huge, man.
it definitely helps. Like you said, like your music, your writing. So it definitely that does help. Like even for those people who listen to this, like they should definitely try it out. Like if they haven't.
I feel well, and I think how I convinced myself and how I would convince anybody else is it's the acceptance that our minds aren't utilized, or we're not utilizing all of the capacity of our minds, number one. And number two, we can also change the capacity of our minds.
Right.
And again, through that COVID experience, I go, man, with the amount of stress I dealt with at that time, the problems I dealt with at that time, you kind of level up,
Right.
and there's no reason why. And again, like the body needs exercise, like everything needs exercise, so does the mind. And I felt like meditation was a way to help that. And again,
Mm.
not only just memory, but I remember when I was talking to her about it, she talked about how some people use meditation as a way to correct traumas from their past. And she talked about how you can sort of go into a certain state. There's all the other stuff like astral projection, where you leave your body and stuff like that, which um, there was a time where I go, that's a little far fetched. Today, I have the full belief that people can do that. But that's another, again, topic. But what she explained in that was interesting because she said, if you have trauma from when you're a child, let's just say where, I don't know, your mom neglected you and you felt like you really wanted her validation, she goes, there's a lot of exercises that people do, or meditations that people do to go and correct that, to go and
Right.
basically speak to your younger self and say, it's okay. She
Right.
loves you and you are validated and you're okay and you're good.
Mm-hmm.
And so it can kind of correct some of those things so that when you come back to who you are today, there is this sense of, that you are enough, that you are someone who is worthy of certain things.
Right.
And when I think about people who are, and I'm not going to get all Tate and say like depression doesn't exist or stuff like that, but I do feel that there are a lot of, we'll call them mental blocks that people
Right.
can overcome by taking that moment, take a deep breath. Okay. And I've been asked many times by people who work with me, or, that say, how do I not react to things so quickly emotionally? And I go, stop,
Yeah.
listen, take a deep breath, think, take another deep breath, and then
Yeah.
speak. And when you just go through that simple process, you're not going to blurt out something horribly rude, or you're not going to swear. It's just going to allow you time to speak to that person properly, take their emotions into into perspective, and probably talk to that person a lot different than you would if you instantly reacted.
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
those things help. That
No,
helped me a
absolutely,
lot.
man.
That helped me a lot in my life, just mindfulness and understanding that the world could be. I think his name is Sam Harris. Waking Up Course is how I.
Some hairs, I know him.
That's how I started.
Hmm.
And it was basically you just play him for 10 minutes when you first wake up in the morning. And the one that really sticks with me the most is he talked about, again, the power of mindfulness. He basically said, close your eyes and
Mhm.
imagine that you received horrible news, or something, that somebody you love was in a car accident, and that, or somebody else was dying from a disease or something, and having the true gratefulness of knowing that you're not in that position, so
Right.
allows you to just enjoy life that much more. And
That's a good way to look about it.
and I'm sure I'm butchering it because it's been so long since I've done this course, but
Right.
it's true. You
Yeah.
know, for any person who wakes up in the morning and goes, "Oh, this is stupid," or "Ah, this is horrible," you stop and you go, "I have legs, I have hands, I have 10 toes, 10 fingers, I have a place to live, I have a family that loves me," and
Mhm.
then you just start cycling through that list of what things to be grateful for, and then you just
Yeah.
stop having a bad day.
That's so true, man.
You know what I mean? Like, it's
That's
crazy
so
for me
true.
that people don't take that on, but
That's so true because I do think about that sometimes too. Like especially like we're all humans. We all have some bad days and we
of
all have some
course.
bad times. And if meditation really helped me a lot through just like being in that moment and actually focusing on like, man, I have legs, like you said, like I have a job to go to, I have food on the table, like
Opportunity.
I have opportunities here, like you just have to start comparing yourself not to the people like that's doing better than you. Like if you compare yourself to people that actually like have no food, and that's there's people out there across the globe, man.
Yeah.
Like
Or compare yourself to who you were.
yeah, that even that, right?
Game changer.
Exactly,
It'll be like 10 years ago, Grant Cardone talks about it. Just upgrade your problems. Today you have different problems than you once did because you're better than you once were.
right?
I love it. I think
No, that's
I think that's the key to life
right,
almost.
man. No, that's so good. That's
At least to
definitely
working life for sure. But
right. Yeah. Well, speaking of, you mentioned about your music and your writing. Are you eventually gonna have your own book, or
uh my
is
book
that?
is written.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it's not published. I've put it through a um I don't know. I did it through like an AI thing to proof it, to
you're right.
proofread it. I haven't released it yet, and to be open, I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to that. But yeah, I do want to release that. And actually, what I probably won't release it until I write my next one, because to me, and the working title is Sales Made Simple, and it's just basically a very easy guide for people to sell with confidence, integrity, and do so in a way that, and it's just a quick crash course as to some of the places I've curated information from. I think the second book I want to write is going to tie into the comparisons. Like we've talked about it today a little bit about the hustle versus business, and I want to talk to people about my journey, and I want to share that a little bit more.
Right,
Where in that first book, it wasn't really was not about me at all. It was about
right,
kind of sales. Yeah, made simple is for the odd person who's starting in the business. I think in order for people to really understand how that first book makes sense is if I add more about my story in the second book. So I'm in the midst of writing the second one as we speak, which is tough because, man, I don't have the same attention span I feel like I used to, but
right.
we're getting through it. We're getting through it.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's actually cool, man. Like, I even me like I don't have anything written right now, but like eventually I kind of want to have my own book, just like my story.
yeah,
Like the reason for me, like I don't have anything right now is like I don't have much to talk about yet. I'm still in that process of
right.
growth. I'm still in that process of building myself and building who I'm
It's
going
true.
to be.
It's true.
So eventually, I'm gonna have one. You know.
I'm gonna disagree with you. I think you have a lot to talk about, and I say this because you're obviously a very reflective and introspective person. You know, don't mistake the journey of the physicality, I guess, of the journey. Um, that is the only thing you can speak of because the majority of time people don't care about that.
Right.
People care about the internal journey. People care about, well, at least you know, from what if I were to read something, that's what it would be about. I don't want care about, you know, not that I say I don't care about it, but the stories of somebody who was poor, came from the ghetto, and worked their way up to become a CEO. I mean, that's a very old story these days.
Right.
And again, it's not to say that that isn't successful and that isn't amazing. That is amazing.
Hmm.
But I think what I would prefer to read about is the internal struggles that those people faced in that process. Uh,
I see.
so even for your story or even the things that you're thinking about, and obviously I'm giving away the juice of my second book or whatever it would
Hmm.
be. Maybe even one is released before the other, it doesn't matter. But um, is what were you thinking in those times?
Right.
And it could be you sitting in a basement by yourself for two
Hmm.
years going, oh, but logging and understanding the emotions that you went through, the thoughts that you had. Because let's be realistic, we can sit bored for, let's say, again, 2 years in a basement, and most people go, what the hell were you doing? You're sitting in a basement. But your mind could have traveled
Right.
three times around the
Mm.
world and back, and no one would ever know. But to be able to share that, I think is very key. Why is because I bet you everybody goes through it. I think people are talking about it more today than they ever have. Uh, but I think everyone, yeah, I think everyone should have a book because
Yeah,
who knows what
I do
you'll
agree.
share. Because what is a book for? It's to share knowledge, it's to share
Exactly.
experiences, it's to share life, and
It's like no, that I do agree. I think everybody should have a book. You know, like a book of their own story or
sure.
whatever, a
Even
book
a
of their own.
podcast or
Yeah,
whatever, just something that allow, like again, going back to the Gary Vee focus is documentation.
exactly.
You know, I remember he talks in there about, you know, hi, my great grandkid Jeremiah or whatever, and he talks about how, and I think you've talked even in some of your podcasts about, you know, like when your kid grows up,
Yeah,
he gets a chance to have insight to how you think or how we think or what things we faced as challenges.
right.
One of the biggest things in our world today is the loss of tradition almost, you know, like kids aren't caring about their heritage or they're
Mhm.
on the other side where they're ultra proud of it and they are throwing it at people's faces. And but I think the loss of tradition is one of the biggest fears of my family, you know,
Hmm.
and it would be to my kids, like if I had children, I want to make sure they speak loud and
Right.
I want to make sure that they understand the struggles that I went through.
Hmm.
Well, how when they watch this 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years into the future, it gives them a true look of history. You just talked earlier about the distractions that media and
Right.
all these things are putting in front of us. Well, what do you think the history books are? They're probably all skewed as well.
That's true.
What we can give people today is an opportunity to see what real life was 2023, you know,
Hmm.
and what happens in our world today. So
Yeah, man, that's
that's
so
what a
true.
book is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like even me, like I've been reading the Bible lately, and you know what? Like it gives you a so basically the Bible is basically like a bunch of people's knowledge
That's
about
right.
what they saw in the past, right?
Exactly.
And it's just all put in one book. It's
Lots of
basically, yeah,
stories,
lots of
lots of
story,
ideas of what they
lots of
think.
insights of different
That's right.
different people, right?
Yeah.
So like I feel like you said about everybody should have a book in their own life, their own story, but I feel like in the perfect world that would happen, but you know, like
It doesn't work that way.
no, I feel like everybody's, you know, maybe people like us that we think alike, that people actually wanna like have a goal in mind. Like I can see it in those people. Eventually, me, I eventually want to have my own book because obviously I want to have that legacy.
Yeah.
Like I don't care if people will buy my book
No,
or read my
it's
book.
about sharing, right?
Yeah,
I think the other thing about writing that's really difficult for people today is the vulnerability in it. And why I say it's difficult for people today is we're more guarded than we ever have been.
right.
Why? Because people use, like, there is a lot more people who can use your experiences or your emotions against you,
Mm-hmm.
and there are people who are malicious with their intent when you want to share something about your experiences. Like, I think about a brand new relationship, or where you're not saying certain things, or you can't share certain things because your girlfriend's going to be upset with you. um, but I think the power in good writing is being vulnerable. Actually, good artistry as a whole is it's through expression,
Right.
and you have to be able to express yourself unfiltered and uncandidly,
Absolutely.
or sorry, candidly, so that you can, so the message is conveyed.
Right.
Why would anybody want a filtered art, like filtered art,
Yeah.
which legitimately is what we have so much of today? But people
Yeah.
don't relate to it though, right? Why? Is because raw emotion is something we can all relate to because we all have
Right.
it. We probably have it a bit subdued, and we control it a bit.
Yeah.
But I think overall that's what makes writing and all art today very,
Right.
very difficult for people, because how many people are making art for other people?
Oh,
That's the
there's
sad part.
yeah,
Uh,
that's true. Like,
like music, for instance. If I listen to, for I don't know, Drake, maybe, today his music doesn't speak to me as much as his
right.
early music, because I felt
I
like it was
agree.
raw. I felt like it was relatable. I felt like he cared, and maybe it's because he's so damn rich, nobody relates to him
Yeah.
anymore. But I think it's about how you're expressing yourself, how vulnerable you are when it comes. I've thought about this so often, how easy is it for people to look at any artist who is really good at what they do and say they're weird, or
Yeah.
they're stupid, or they're a certain way. Well, it's because they are borderline unfiltered. They don't have any protectant
Yeah.
to show who they are. They're just putting their heart on line.
That's
That's
true.
all. So we can judge them, but really we should all admire them,
Yeah.
because they're the people who are courageous enough and brave enough to put it out there. So I think that's what makes writing and all art so difficult today. Like even going to music,
Mm-hmm.
I've taken such a huge halt in music, and it hurts me to say, because I love music, and I think I used it more as therapy for myself than I
Right.
did as a hobby or the thing I cared about the most. But it was, to this day, it was something that was so important to me, and when I stopped, or when I slowed down on it, it kind of hurt me. But I also understood I've new outlets, and I have new ways to express myself, and I'm going to continue to do that. So I think the vulnerable aspect is obviously what we should admire the most, but it's the biggest reason why I think people don't write, especially when it
Yeah.
comes to a book, right?
Speaking of music, man, are you still um doing music right now?
I would say I don't know, 10% of
10%?
the time, so not a lot.
Yeah.
And I got into the writing side again, and I was writing. I met a really cool guy. His name's Will. He's here, and I had a chance to get in the studio. This was years ago now, probably a couple of years after I first moved here. I can't remember what his name is, but his team is Samurai Champ. So shout out to you guys. But his name's Marvin. Sorry. Really nice guy, great voice, makes some great music, and we had a great conversation. I was in the studio with them one night, and really inspired me to want to get back into music and do some of those things. But I will say, I had pivoted, man, because I really felt like I wasn't making music for myself,
Right.
and I hated that feeling.
Yeah, yeah.
I hate the idea of doing something just to serve for no apparent reason.
Right.
I think music should be made for, yeah, should have intent.
Yeah. No, I
If
agree.
my intent is good, or to help somebody through a tough time, or to inspire someone, and I don't feel like I'm inspired, or I feel like I can't help someone through that time, I just won't do it. So, yeah, I mean, to answer your question, probably 10% of what I once was, and I just felt like I was doing it to feed my ego more
Right.
than I was to better people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
So, I still love it. I still enjoy it. I still review some of like, my studio is still set up in my apartment, like, just the quick reference studio, but I
Right.
haven't recorded probably in, I would say, 3 months, 3 to 4 months.
Oh, that's
So
fine, man.
yeah, so it's not like it's completely disappeared.
Right.
Um, but yeah, like I told you, I think I have a bit of a different focus today. I want to, I've recently got into a relationship. Well, recently, about a year now. Um, and I want to focus on her. I want to
Right.
focus on
That's good.
building, a family. I want to focus on my family, like my parents.
Hmm.
I took a trip. Like you probably had some realizations when you took your trip to the Philippines, but I took a trip with my family at the start of this year to Laos, Thailand,
Mm.
um, and just you learn some things about your parents. They're getting older, their health and their memory and everything starts to deteriorate a little bit. And because we've had such distance, I really felt selfish to be very open. I felt like I was, making money, pushing my career forward, enjoying life and
Yeah.
enjoying peace essentially. But at what cost? That peace is okay. I live alone. I don't have people bothering me because I gotta make money and I got business to do. But then I got my parents who are getting older by the day,
Yeah.
and so there was this kind of heavy amount of guilt that really really sat on me, and it
Mhm.
truly took away a lot of my discipline, I guess, of music, unfortunately. But I still love it, and I do still think it plays a significant part on my life.
Right.
And I'm not sure what that is. If music was just simply used for me to cope trauma and stress, I'll accept that, because man, the amount of times I've either got in front of people and, got a chance to perform music or get in the studio and perform it, it's such a blessing. And I look at martial arts the same way. I had a
Right.
chance to compete in a very light contact kickboxing tournament, and
Yeah. I remember you mentioned that.
yeah, and it was,
Yeah.
it was,
It was a while back.
weight classes were all off, everything was good,
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter. But the experience through that process for me was, um, it was just a moment to take my mind off
Yeah.
of the stresses of life, the stresses of this world,
Yeah.
humble me. It's
That's good,
cool,
man. No, I
amazing.
remember when we were still training kickbox.
Yeah,
I still
yeah,
remember, and you mentioned that you were gonna eventually start fighting,
yeah.
and so that did happen, eh?
It did happen.
That's a
Yeah.
good man.
When did I compete? It was April, maybe May.
This year?
Yeah, this year.
Oh wow,
It was unfortunate
it's pretty recent,
because
eh?
I'd gained a little bit of extra weight. And again, it was
Yeah,
a light contact, so there was no real weight classes. I ended up getting in there with a kid who was 9 years younger than me and fast and strong. I remember it was the first round. Well, what an experience. If anybody ever in their life wants to learn more about themselves, go do that. There's probably 100 people in a bit of a in the tournament, like just watching.
yeah,
And I remember going upstairs to warm up, and this kid is muscular and in
right.
shape, and he's hitting the pads, and honestly, it sounded like gunshots. It was just like pop, 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 pop. And I was like, I hope that's not the kid that I'm up against.
Yeah,
And of course it was. He was lighter than me. I probably had 20 pounds on him, but again, that was more focused on speed and
mm-hmm.
accuracy. And there were some things you don't do, like there was not, I don't think, kneeing or elbowing or anything like that. But um, yeah, and as I step onto the thing, oh, geez, it, I wasn't, and I always, my disclaimer is when I had left for my trip in January, I was 20 pounds less in shape because I was training to
Right,
fight.
right,
But when you take 2.5 months and you disappear to Mexico,
right.
Asia, and all these different places in Thailand, you're eating, your routine is
You'd
completely
obviously
up.
want to enjoy it.
That's right. But I trained like I trained the whole way steady. I just wasn't training and fighting. I really wanted to go, and there's a lot of stuff, family stuff happened, but I wanted 2 weeks of solid training in Thailand,
Hmm.
obviously with the killers.
Right.
Never got that. Anyway, so I get back and all of a sudden this tournament springs up and I go, oh shit,
Yeah.
I should probably do this. It's kind of, so shout out to Frank. He worked with me for probably about 2.5 weeks leading up to, and helped me a lot.
That's good.
Just get back into the groove. I,
Right.
I hadn't sparred in 4 months. Of course you don't necessarily lose it, but the nerves really get to
Yeah.
you. So I had two sparring sessions at Siam here in Regina before I went. I ended up injuring my toe prior to going in. No big deal. I pushed through it. And anyway, we get there, and yeah, there's this back to the young man. He was a specimen. He was fired
Yeah.
up. We touched gloves, and it was really high pace. There were, and funny thing, it was only 90-second rounds, And
Mm.
when I first heard about the tournament, I was like, 90 seconds? I got this.
Nothing. Yeah.
Oh man. 90 seconds when you got a young
Yeah.
28, 30, or 29-year-old kid wanting to take your head off or at least just pressuring you a bit. Yeah, it breaks you down a bit really
Definitely.
fast. And so how I always explain it to people is we kind of went back and forth in that first 90 seconds and I was on autopilot.
Right.
It's the best way to put it. I was on autopilot until the moment I went to gasp for air and it wasn't there. So I was like, and I looked around and I came back to reality and I was like, okay, you're in a match.
Yeah.
You are out of breath because obviously I
Yeah.
wasn't in near of good of shape. Um, Chris from work, him and I spar and we train together. And he basically said to me, Drew, you are about 40% of what you were before you took your holiday. So
Yeah.
let's get you back. And we tried, obviously. Anyway, yeah, I went to go gas for air and there was no air coming in. And yeah, and the kid still came at me. So he won the first round. So 2 rounds, 90 seconds. I ended up taking the second round because I started to see him
Yeah.
fade a little bit. And then I started to regulate my breathing. And let's go back to it. The
Yeah.
meditation, the breathing exercises, boom, instantly just kicked me right back in to go, you're tired, you're sore, breathe deep, and bring yourself to where you are at this moment.
Absolutely.
And that moment was I am in the middle of a match
Hmm.
against a young man who has probably got tons of energy, but not a lot of experience.
Yeah.
So I kind of took that in and I just slowly regulated my air and my breath and started to chop him down, took his legs a little bit and took that round. And then after it was a tie breaking round of 60 seconds. And at the 60 seconds, you start to hit harder as you
Yeah.
get tired, and you're not supposed to hit that hard.
Yeah.
But I started hitting him a little bit harder than
That's
I
good, man.
wanted to, but I could see it breaking him down.
Yeah.
And I remember going into that last round, Israel Adesanya style. I know it's much smaller scale, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
literally was like, I'm willing to die in there. Like I'm all
That's
in.
good, man.
I'm all in. And it was a wild experience. So anyway, I ended up winning the 60-second round, and I remember completely out of breath, him and I going back and forth and just screaming in his face after going, I'm still ready to fight.
Yeah.
And what an experience, man.
That's amazing, man.
It
That's
was
actually
intense.
crazy.
It was intense,
Are
man.
you planning and hoping to get back in the ring?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
actually
Yeah, I would love to. Well,
let
because I'm sure my girlfriend will end up watching this and she has pleaded with me not to.
right.
We that was it was light. I would love to do MMA because that's one of
Yeah.
that was just kickboxing. We had headgear, big gloves, and then
Hmm.
you had shin guards. So it wasn't as risky,
Right.
mouth guard and everything. Um, if I can convince her, no question, I would like to.
Right.
And to me, it's just it's about experience.
Yeah.
The next fight that I had, I took it a little bit easier. He was about the same weight, but he was exhausted. Well, we were all
Yeah.
exhausted. The young man, I think his name was Josh. As soon as he gets off the mat, he's laying on his back. I get off the mat, I'm up against the thing. Like my mother saw me and she said, "You look purple." Like I was just
Yeah.
and I was just done.
Right.
But again, you gather yourself.
Hmm.
So when I went into that next fight, I was like, I can do this, and he's more tired than I am.
Right.
And again, I'm probably more of a marathon guy than a sprinter. So I was
Hmm.
like, I'm going to regulate and I'm just going to keep working.
Keep
And,
going.
and yeah, by probably the first round being finished and they gave me the round, I'm like, I'm going to take this and I'm going to beat him.
Yeah.
And I could see him exhausted.
Yeah.
Like his arms were down by his sides. I could still have my arms up and I was still throwing jabs. And anyway, in that experience, I just said to myself, I could do better.
Yeah.
The adrenaline really is what took it out of me, man. Like I remember
Hmm.
just like you don't hear anything.
Yeah.
You
I
hear,
bet.
you hear the odd person yelling, but you don't hear what they're saying. You're
Yeah.
just thinking about this person in
Yeah.
front of you. So,
The noise canceling,
yeah,
man. I've
100%
been in that,
noise
like just
canceling.
playing ball, you know?
Yeah, yeah. You
'Cause you're
Nobody's there.
exhausted.
You're just
You
focused.
just focus on the game.
You have zero energy to
Yep.
expend anywhere else other
Yep.
than the task at hand.
Exactly.
And I knew I was like, if I'm listening to someone yell at me, I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm not here, and I could get hurt,
Yeah.
and I could get knocked out, whatever it is, right? So,
But it's so different with ball and unboxing,
oh
man. Because
yeah,
I've tried, I've
focus,
sparred with
man.
you and
Yeah,
here
yeah.
and there, and man, it's exhausting,
Oh, dude.
like 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 if you're boxing into like just punching bag,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
so
yeah,
easy
yeah.
because you're not getting hit. But
Exactly.
once you're
And you
getting
gotta
hit and here
dodge
and
and
there, man, it's
oh
like
man.
it's exhausting.
Every
I know how it feels, you know?
every strike you absorb like just
Yeah,
chops your
I
energy level
know.
down. So when you go to
Mhm.
throw again, each everything becomes more laboring, right?
Right, yeah,
But yeah, to answer your question, for sure, I want to. I think I'm in better shape today than I was at that time.
right.
Obviously, you know what my weight is not where it should be, but it's pretty like I went through that process of dropping weight as well, and that was really cool.
That's
I think
good.
it was like 15 pounds in 5 days or something stupid.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure I didn't do it properly to all the
Yeah.
fight dietitians
Mhm.
out there, but
Some
I just
trainers out there
yeah,
complaining
yeah,
like,
they're
"Oh,
like,
you shouldn't be
oh, yeah,
losing that much
yeah,
weight."
exactly. It gained back really quickly, don't worry. But no,
Mhm.
I loved it, man. That was a life-changing
Yeah,
experience, and it really made me
definitely.
feel like there's just like
Mhm.
I'm older. I've lived a life. I felt like there was something in that that just told me like you haven't lived,
Yeah.
you haven't experienced everything you want to. There's still things that I've driven fast cars, I've raced,
Hmm.
I've now fought, I've done many things, and I think like we've played higher stakes basketball games too, which is
Yeah,
just there's another level of intensity to that too,
absolutely. Yeah.
So I really felt like my younger testosterone driven self is like keep going, keep finding different things to excite you.
Hmm.
um so yeah, again, to answer your question, I'd really like to. She doesn't want me to, but I'll convince her. I'll
Yeah.
convince her.
Yeah. Oh, that's good, man. That's good.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely one of the things that, you if you want to do it, obviously. That's
Well, and I think I think there's a misconception about martial arts. I think people see it as this
yeah.
brute, barbaric type of thing. And don't get me wrong, sure, there's contact, and there is barbarians within and warriors in the um, in the field of fighting. But I feel like in the sport aspect of it, the art aspect of it. There is such beauty in it,
Yep.
and for me to take part in it is truly an honor because I think the sport aspect, I mean, we all have our competitive nature. That's how we get to where we are. That's how we do what we do. From
Hmm.
the art aspect is expression, and the
Yeah.
conversations I've had with her is just trying to help her understand that stuff.
Right.
Is that we have to find ways to express ourselves. If I'm not making music, or if I'm not, I'm lucky to be able to express myself in business and express myself, at home, but there's ways that it's going to be missing out of our lives,
Yeah.
so we need to be able to
I
fulfill
do.
that,
I do agree.
because
Yeah.
expression is everything, man. If you don't have,
Absolutely.
we'll call it, the people always say like, there's three, mind, body, soul, right? We focus a lot on our bodies. We're training, we're taking care of. We focus a lot on our minds. We're learning, we're growing, we're
Hmm.
sharing. What about the soul, man?
That's true.
There's again the meditation, the healing aspect, yoga. You have now expression, and this is actually something I even teach people in business,
Yeah.
because there's this level of, we'll call it expressive energy, that if we're not letting it out somewhere, it just stays in us.
That's true.
Causes, and again, there's plenty of specialists out there that might think I'm whatever, but, and I'm speaking from a very surface level, is just how I feel. If I
Hmm.
don't express myself, if I don't have an opportunity to create, actually is the right word, is to create something,
Yeah.
I feel like something is missing in my life. I feel like
Yeah.
I cannot go on. Like I'm just like, oh, I gotta make a song, or I gotta write something, or I gotta
Yeah.
go.
I feel like as men, I feel like we're creative.
We have to be.
We have to create. Even with me, right? Like this is one of the things that I love to do.
Yeah,
And if I'm not creating and doing something, it's
yeah.
like there's something missing. There's that one piece
It's
that's
true.
missing.
That's why I always support you, man. I
Yeah,
think about what you're doing and I see it.
mm,
And you're, to me, you're doing it the right way, is you're doing it for yourself. You're doing it for your family, you're doing
absolutely.
it for your child. Where it goes, nobody knows. And
Nobody
and
knows.
truly, no, you should not never care
Yeah,
about the other side, or what people think of it, because I don't believe that every single person who set out to um, do something thought or knew where it was going to go, or somebody, or everyone who has created something amazing. I don't know that all of them thought it was going to be something amazing.
absolutely, man.
They
That's
just did it,
they just did it because they love it,
and it
right?
felt right, you
Right.
know.
That's true. And I feel like that's how it should be, right? Even with anything. So yeah.
Yeah,
No,
and
like.
like in our day and age
Mm,
today, and I'm not going to get too far into this because that's a whole nother podcast. But when we talk about feelings, like people talk about feelings, they like, oh, I feel like I'm a man or I feel like I'm a woman and all that stuff. I think there's a better way to express that feeling,
right,
right? And to me, it go again, like I said, it doesn't feel right. So what do I do with that? I've seen these moments where it's like respect my feelings. No, what I think people should be doing is using those feelings to create something. And I
right,
promise you, people will then respect that because you've utilized it. You've channeled that feeling.
right.
You've channeled that emotion into something instead of just expecting someone to read your mind or read
Yeah,
your heart, for instance, because that's what it is,
exactly.
and respect it or feel it. It's just
Mhm.
not that's unfair. That's unfair for people to expect that. But I agree with you. If it feels right, use it to build something as long as it's not hurting anybody, as long as
Absolutely,
causing people an extreme amount of discomfort, just create something. Use it to
absolutely.
build something.
This is
Yeah.
why I do what I do, man. Because like I feel like this is what I love to do, and I feel like this is the right thing to do, and it's just knowledge and wisdom that's all gathered together
Yeah,
to put
man.
this up. So
And I
and
think, and again, this may be a small prediction, but again, let's go back to music. I've performed in front of many, many people. I've done many different things with music, but I've never ever released an album. And I can
right,
tell you, yeah, would I have wanted to do it? And will I still? Sure. But one thing that for me is what it did for me. Like I gained so much from that I didn't even care.
right,
I don't care. Like I've never sold an album, never made.
hmm
People have paid me to perform, but I've never put out anything that I'm like, oh, I gotta promote that or this. No, no, no.
yeah,
But what the process did for me was amazing, man.
yeah. Oh, that's good,
Just
man.
writing, learning marketing. It
Yeah,
helped me in business. It helped me in life. It helped me deal with people. It helped me understand myself. That
yeah.
process was amazing. I'd never take anything away
I
from it.
think I think just from my perspective, from your music, and you probably have some music saved in
Oh
your own
yeah,
personal file,
for
right?
sure.
You probably have like a few here or maybe a
Yeah,
bunch.
yeah.
So I think for me and my perspective, I think it would be nice for you to put it public
Just let it
and
out into the
just
world.
yeah, just put it out there. Just make a playlist
Yep.
of your own. Like just put it out there and just make a playlist for you. And a person here and two they want to listen to you, then
Yeah,
that's good, right?
it's true.
Like even if like let's say you lose your files for some reason, right? Your
Yeah, it's
computer
there.
gets stolen, whatever your music is out there. You don't have to worry about it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So this is why with me, it's like I don't care. I'm just gonna put it out there.
yeah.
I'm just gonna put it out there and save it, and then I don't have to worry about me losing my
Right,
files.
right.
And
It's a good point.
so,
It's a really great point.
yeah, so
I remember you saying that to me a while ago as well, and no, I respect that. I think my only concern is there are some files in there that I haven't paid the rights to, like some of my demos that I
mm,
haven't paid the rights to. Like,
right,
I'll a couple of beats I made on my
hmm
own that I had rapped over, and um, but a couple of them, I just kind of you just take off YouTube or whatever,
right,
and
right. I feel like that's fine, man. I feel
well,
like
today, yeah, well, because again, who knows where it
as long as
goes
you
or what
don't
it does.
monetize it,
That's right.
yeah.
That's right.
As long as you don't monetize it, I think you're fine. But once you monetize it and you start making out of it,
That's
like
now
someone
where,
will come after
yeah,
you, you
now
know?
because that's my beat.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, no, I appreciate that, and that's definitely, what one of my goals is that I'd like to ramp myself back up into the recording side,
Yeah.
and I would like to re-record all of those.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely. That's good.
and yeah, I have a bunch of them. It's funny.
That's good, man.
I just shared a folder with old songs, man, from like early 2000s that
Yeah.
friends and I did. And there's some gems in there, man. There's some good stuff. And I always told them, like, yeah, if we would have just kept going. And actually, if we would have taken your advice, I'll truly believe, yeah, there would be a lot more recognition or a lot more that we could
Absolutely.
have
Yeah.
put into it. So it's been one of those things that I really, yeah, it
Yeah.
will happen.
You definitely should put your music out there, just
Yeah, I appreciate that. And
I think even don't even think about the views, don't even think
oh
about
yeah,
the
no, no,
people. Like the same with me. Like I don't see it that way. It's like it's just a documentation and I have it saved somewhere else,
yeah,
like
yeah,
like maybe for you save it on different platforms. So then if you never know, man. Like some platform will close down for some reason,
It's
for
true. It's
whatever.
true.
So then at least you have it on a different.
You're just talking preservation, like time capsule
Yep.
shit. Like that's a great way of
Oh,
looking at it,
absolutely, man.
for sure.
Yeah. Honestly, I think we've got a
Yeah,
good time on this
yeah, I
podcast,
appreciate
man.
that.
We got over an hour here.
Really nice.
Yeah,
Wow,
an
that
hour,
went
an
quick.
hour and 20 minutes over. So
Thanks
that's
for
good.
having
I
me.
think it's good to wrap this up here, and we'll definitely shoot more, man.
For
And
sure.
I feel like we should though. Like we
We
definitely
will.
should. Like
We will.
this is not the first time that we shot a podcast.
No, no, no.
We did some virtually
Yeah.
before. We originally, me and you, we originally started. What was it? Legend State of Mind. Was
Legend
it?
State of Mind. Yeah.
I remember that, man. I remember
Yeah.
that. But then, like life happens. We both kind of you kind of did your own thing. I kind of had
Yeah.
did my own thing too. And like I said, we all had different plans in our life, so we kind of have to we split in
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
ways.
It'll
But
come back.
we had that going, and we kind of just like lose track. But it's glad to have you here, and we
Thanks,
actually
man.
sat down. And honestly, like this podcast that I'm doing right now, which is Calbros
Yeah.
Podcast. I came up with it, man, just for me. Like I never thought I would have someone in here and there. I was just like, yeah, if I could bring someone in here just to have their insight and
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
just to have a raw conversation,
Yeah.
I would definitely love to do that. Like it's just for me to document it
Yeah.
and just to have it. Like it doesn't matter if I'm doing it alone.
No,
Like
absolutely.
like I
Absolutely.
have some episodes that it's just me.
Nice.
And I don't care, it's just that when like I said, like look back to my son, if he wants to go back and be like, okay, what's this episode about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he could just be doing
No, there's
whatever.
gems, man. He'll be able to
So,
take on some of those lessons, and
absolutely.
so yeah, no,
So,
thanks for having me, man.
no, absolutely.
It's exciting to see your journey, and we'll all always support, and we'll definitely do
Appreciate it,
this
man.
again, man. We'll
Appreciate
definitely
it.
do this
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah. And we'll definitely, even with the podcast that we had in mind that we talked about before, like
Yeah.
we're definitely, if that's still up on the air, then we could definitely talk more about that.
Lots,
And,
lots of
like,
opportunities coming.
absolutely. Yeah.
And for those who are listening, yeah, you know what? There's a couple of different places that we'll be heading, whether it's myself or with you. I
Yep.
have car industry stuff for those who are not familiar with what I'm doing. Business.
Hmm.
There's a health one, mindfulness training, different things that.
Absolutely.
I have my personal trainer Patrick, who's just a monster. We're going to be doing some stuff with him in the near future. I want to do some things based on, yeah, like investing in money, some real
Yeah.
estate stuff. And I think, yeah, eventually the music conversation stems back in. So
That's good.
I'll get writing on that book, and maybe the next time we chat, I'll have a little bit more to
Right.
discuss about that. So,
Absolutely, man. It's good having you here.
thank you,
I think
sir.
it's time to wrap this up. I think we've put a good time in here,
I
and
agree.
I feel like people will just lose their track, and
Yeah,
like
exactly.
especially with the span of what do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for?
Attention.
Attention span.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, it's
the
not
attention
much these
span
days.
of everyone now is kind of is very
That's
short now.
it
So
is. All right,
like,
man. Thank you.
but yeah, it's very good. Glad that we had this conversation, and man, it's glad to catch up too. Like,
Yeah, it's nice.
it's definitely it's good to have this. But yeah, no, appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right, man.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. That was good. I think we had a good time there.